I've had so many of you guys ask me to slow down and show you laminating and shaping, and that's what this video is. So I'm getting my countertop clean. I only use Thieves Household Cleaner from Young Living. It's my favorite. It's plant-based. It doesn't have the chemicals in it. If you follow me, then you know I'm a board-certified holistic practitioner, and I am a label reader. So I always clean my counter and get it dried off really good. And now I'm putting some all-purpose flour down and getting set up to invert my bowl and get this double batch of sourdough bread dough on the counter so I can do the laminating and the shaping. Now, typically you would let gravity take over here, but I was kind of in a hurry and I probably should have proofed it a little while longer. But again, we've got a lot of things going on today and I needed to just get this bread dough where it was shaped and ready for the bannetons and proofing on the counter so I could bake it later this evening. So got that all taken care of, and now I'm going to take this massive dough, which is it's a batch of 2, and divide it in half. Now, typically my one bread loaf technique is it involves 100 grams of starter. It involves 330 grams of purified water, 500 grams of flour, and then for the salt portion, which comes an hour after I mix all of that together, it's 10 grams of salt with 20 grams of additional purified water. So I like to do the autolyse first and then add my salt. So you'll see this is the laminating portion. So you're stretching it out into like a rectangle, but you don't want it too thin. You don't want to work with it too much. It's already been proofing and has quite a bit of bubbles in it. I'm just getting it to where I can fold that front edge inward, just like that. And then the back edge folds over that front edge and it sticks pretty well to itself. And then turn it and roll it like a jelly roll. And I'm rolling this pretty tight. And then I'm going to pull it towards me. And with my right hand, I am kind of pushing the top tension down and around and pulling it back towards me. And this is creating tension on the top of the bread dough. And you'll see it starting to kind of tighten up there on the top. You don't want to overwork this because it could rip the top of that bread dough. And that's not something you're looking for this. So you just work it until you get that nice tight tension in a good sized ball. And then we're going to repeat the same process with the second loaf. Now, sometimes I make a double batch and one gets baked as a sourdough loaf and one gets baked with inclusions, but I just didn't have the headspace for that today. We have so much going on. Our daughter and her husband have bought a house and they've been remodeling it, and we've had the grandbaby quite a bit, so I was just trying to take a little bit of time while Gramps was watching the grandbaby and get this bread cranked out. And this is for our personal use, for us to have something to eat over the weekend while we are painting and remodeling and getting things moved in. So it's basically the same thing. You'll see some creators are weighing their double batch, or when they're cutting their dough, they're putting it on a digital scale, which is great if you need every bread loaf to weigh the same thing. I don't. I just eyeballed this, and it works for me. So just creating that tension across the top. And you want that flour on the counter. You don't want too much, but you don't want your bread dough sticking to the countertop. And I use banneton baskets with linen liners. And the last time I baked round loaves, I used some inclusions that leaked out onto my liners and they had to be washed. So you're going to see me fitting my banneton baskets with the liner, the linen liner back in place. And because they've been washed, I'm going to need to dust them. And I like to use non-GMO white rice flour to dust the inside liners of my banneton baskets. And I'm glad that this happened for this video because you get to see that this is how the linen liners fit on your banneton baskets. When we first got our supplies last year, we were confused. We didn't know if that was supposed to go over the bread or under the bread. It's supposed to go under the bread. So stretching them over, it's a tight fit. And we get that done, and then we're going to put some of that rice flour inside. You don't want your dough to stick to your banneton or the banneton liner, and this is what that purpose is. You could use all-purpose flour, but it could also just get real gummy and sticky and defeat the purpose. So you want more of a grainy flour. I've seen where some people are using semolina flour in their underneath their loaves. So that's another good option. This is just something I had and what I use on the inside of the liners. Now I'm going to invert the dough into the banneton. So that smooth side that's on the top of the dough is going to go face down in the banneton basket. And that is still going to be the top of the bread because when it gets ready to get baked, it's going to get inverted onto a piece of parchment paper. So this is the bottom of the bread loaf that I'm working on, and I'm just kind of pinching that closed so that I can maintain the tightness that we just shaped into this dough. Both of these loaves are going to sit on the counter. Sometimes I sit them in the refrigerator. The longer they can proof, either in the fridge or on the counter, the more you're going to get fermentation, which is going to be great for your gut health. Great gut-friendly bacteria and yeast are going to be forming and creating those bubbles and helping the bread dough to rise. So I'm just putting a little all-purpose on the top so that my cloth doesn't stick, and I'm going to take it a couple of minutes to just clean up. I didn't edit this part out because I think it's important just to kind of learn from one another. So I take my silicone bowl scraper and just scrape up all of that flour that was on the countertop. And you can remember from kindergarten that flour and water make glue. So you don't want all this to stay on your countertop. It's hard to get off once it dries on there. So now I'm grabbing my Thieves household cleaner again and just getting that nice and clean so that I can cover these bannetons and just leave them while they proof and go play with the grandbaby. We've got some upcoming classes in the Alabaster area, so make sure that you're following me and paying attention to the link tree to see when those classes are going to be.